guess I can start with a demo then, see what this is about. My name's Eric. I'm CTO of VirZOOM. We're right here in Harvard Square in Cambridge. And we're making a virtual reality controller that looks like a bike but turns you into anything that you could think of. We're making games that allow you to exercise, but we're also going to open up the SDK so y'all can make any games that you can think of with it. We're hoping to have it available around January in sort of early access. So let me show you what it's about. It'll work with any VR system that supports position tracking. So currently DK2s, but you know, the commercial Oculus, Morpheus, Vive. I heard OSVR recently introduced a position tracker. So the reason is that we use your left and right motion to steer and do other things in our games. So I'm just calibrating now. It's showing me how to move my shoulders. You don't have to throw your head like this. Now you can just go side to side. This is kind of our menu paradigm. You know, we can put any number of faces or on this cube in front of us and spin it around. And we've got two buttons right here, left and right. So that's what we do everything with, and we are getting the speed sensing off of the pedaling, so not being used right now. I'm just going to select the demo profile, and it's going to take me to, there's one game that we've set up for all the demos that takes you through all three of our current games. So I'm going to hold down the right button and start pedaling. So I'm in a pretty bare world. These are all prototype games, but this demonstrates just what you can do in a straight line. You know, it's these horses run away from you faster and faster. We've been testing the game out with people who really use it every week. So there's 15 levels of this game. This is just a quick thing to show you what you can do. I'm going to head for that elephant. There's a coin underneath his legs. There we go. It's going to take me to our Indianapolis track any moment. Any moment. There you go. I know it was happening there. It was sending telemetry back to our servers, which I should have turned off for this demo. So I'm sitting in an Indy car, and you can see that my pedaling is the speed of the car. We've got fully working mirrors. It turns out I'm a dog. And I can shift gears with my right button. So just two gears, like the old game pole position right now. See if I can break my own record here. I'm already behind. This track happens to be the same size as Indy. It's also got a smaller second turn, so you got to manage your turning a little better. See if I can really get those tires to smoke. All right, this one's going to go for another 10 seconds or so before we transition. There's a ghost car up ahead. There he is. And our last demo is me back on the horse, just riding around a path through a big canyon. You can see I'm getting a little winded already. It's because this is great exercise. I'm not even thinking about it because I'm putting all my energy into the horse or the car. So what we're doing here is eating apples, and they're going to give me the energy to fly. I'm going to grab a couple more and then try to fly over this little valley here. So my pedaling now is controlling my lift. If I slow down, I glide. If I pedal harder, go back up. When my energy runs out, I just will glide back down. You always bring you in for a soft landing, so we've made everything here for VR for the ground up. Ooh. And that's the product. So the reason for the talk is to tell you guys a little more about it, and if you're interested in developing or having one, you'd be the first. And this is just some details about the bike, and that's more what it's going to look like. Red and black are colors. And we're picking off speed. It's a high resolution speed. And direction, we've got the thumb buttons. It doesn't control the resistance, but there is a resistance setting on here, which is great. So really all members of the family can play it, or sometimes you just might want a better workout. Other times you might just want to game it. It's all wireless. The only wire you're seeing here is the tether to the VR. So we expect that to last for about 3 to 6 months on a pair of AA's. And yeah, the only way you can sleep, you never have to hit a button to turn it on. So we are planning to offer this to consumers and devs the same for under $200. So I don't know if you've ever bought like exercise equipment before. It's pretty far under that for also having all this stuff, because we think of it as a controller, as a VR controller, and we think of gamers as the ones who will want them first, need them first. So hopefully that price works for everyone, and we worked hard to make it work for us. On top of the bike, we have a dev team that has made games for Harmonix for many years, Turbine, Visual Concepts, and we're basically, our inspiration in VR is to become creatures or vehicles. And that's kind of how we're just designing these exercise games outward from. So some of them, most of them probably will be in an arcade style where you level up until you've gotten your workout that day. But we're going to start developing some multiplayer aspects. So obviously that car, but you can imagine just riding around that canyon with another horse, who's your friend. And that would be weird in the first, but we're going to go there. And I think the multiplayer aspects are going to be fantastic. So again, hopefully everybody with VR gets to try this at these kind of prices. And we're undershooting kind of Oculus stated machine specs. We will be running on PS4 as well. So all of our games are going to be guaranteed to run smooth on those setups. As for price for our games, we're thinking of a low-cost subscription as opposed to just buy each game. And that kind of comes from the idea that this isn't an app, right? If you're buying one of these things, it's in your house. It better be doing you some good. We want you to be on it and using it every day. And so we're going to be continually expanding our games, continually creating new games, and hopefully you guys are also creating games for it. So, over a year, that's, a $60 game. Hopefully it works for everybody, and we can talk, afterward. Let me know. So as far as you guys, I think you might be interested in not only playing it, but making games for it. And I'm actually going to show you right after this a game I made out in the hallway yesterday in a couple of hours. Brand new game. It's going to have just some Unity components and prefabs. If any of you have used the Oculus plugin that was available last year, you can access the raw data. Or you can use our player controller, where we've put a lot of effort to figure out how to move you around safely and comfortably in VR. Those are two big keywords. They mean a lot to us. We've play tested on hundreds, probably thousands of people at this point to refine things, and everything we've learned is in that player controller, and we're going to open that up to you guys. And of course, it does work without a headset, so if you happen to work on your game like out in the hallway I was doing, you can still do that. So we're not planning to charge anything above that $5 subscription for access to those games, and you can share them with your friends. You could sell them, on your own. We think this is just a good way to promote usage, and hopefully you guys figure out really interesting things to do with it in addition to what we're doing. So we're planning to make 100 to 200 of these bikes. We'll have them ready. We are already starting to make them, and this is a prototype, but the real ones will be ready starting in January. So pretty early, and if you're interested in reserving one, mail Spencer. He's sitting over on the end row there, and his card's up here. There's brochures and stickers too if you want to take them home, but let me show you the game I put together yesterday. All right, nobody else on the team has seen this but Spencer. So this is Unity 5.2. You guys know it has that unified VR API, which was great. It allowed us to just delete all of the old plugins. And it also gave us the ability to run right from play mode, which is amazing. It also enabled that TV display you saw, which was a single view of what I was seeing, not just the stereo view and undistorted. So let me show you around this scene a little bit. I thought, well, I haven't done a motorcycle yet. So I downloaded a motorcycle. And this is what we have. And everything underneath here, that's just what was downloaded. Everything above here, you can kind of look at the components. I made a sphere just with a collider. I stuck a rigid body on it. The important thing there was I set the freeze rotation constraints because our component takes over those things for you. It's really important in VR to control the rotation of your head in every direction. And then this is our plugin. It's called the VirZOOM model. And it's got things like how fast do you want to go for your pedaling speed, and how much do you want to be able to rise or fall in the air. How far are you going to let your player lean over to achieve their maximum. Things like head dead means dead space around your head. So since we're using your head for that lean control, there's a little area in here where people are just normally moving around. You don't want that to do this. Landing hardness. So in addition to turning, our controller does a great job with landing. If I just jumped off this stage, right before I hit that ground, I would actually float in and then just touch down. So we're controlling the velocity as a function of height. And there's a couple of parameters there you can tune. We've got it tuned so you still feel that bump. It's weird if you just come in and it's like glass. But different games could use different things. The way this worked was I created the prefab, I put the bike in, and I moved the bike around to where I want my, basically my butt, which is where you see it in the motorcycle. It's not in the seat because I want my head right above my butt, so that when you turn, you're not, you don't have a positional offset, and you're also swaying. So the way you set up our prefabs is like that. And then I specified a neck height until it looked right, 0.6 meters, which puts it right around here. So you'll see that when I hit play, which I can do now. All right, that's what my bike looks like. Let's wait for the Oculus warning to go. I am over 13. And the concrete textures are courtesy, everything's courtesy of the asset store. I am not an artist. This feels pretty much like a bike, and I have had 4 of them, and I did nothing to our controller to make it feel this way. It just happens that that's how it works, and there's a lot of configurability. You see, one thing is you see the bike turning when I'm leaning. But an important thing about our controller is you don't see me rotating. I'm looking straight ahead, and my environment isn't changing. What I'm actually doing when I'm looking straight and I haven't turned my head is I'm strafing. And the motorcycle is following its velocity. That's all it's doing. So this is a really key part of our VR solution and what makes the comfort work. So the way I actually get to be facing different directions is while I'm turning, I'm looking into the turn. And so there's a combination of head look, but if I just did head look all the time, I'd be turning now, right? Well, I'm not leaning now, so I'm free to look anywhere I want. So this is something that's just uniquely enabled by this controller because of the fact that my butt is in one place and my hands are in one place. They form a very stable tripod. So now it's time for me to do the jump. There you go. Made it. No sound effects. That would have been fantastic, but I didn't have time. So, you can, of course, make games that test, the limits of comfort and fun, but, this actual action in real life would test the limits of comfort and fun, so it does a pretty good job, I think, of replicating that. I haven't jumped many buses before. But, if we have time, I'll actually make this available over at our booth in addition to that standard demo if anybody wants to give it a try afterward. So I was thinking about putting that level together right here in the show, but it actually took me 2 hours, so I didn't think I could do it in 15 minutes. And everything else in there, is just unmodified. It's really that VirZOOM model component that does all the work. And I guess I can show you one piece that I did add as a script. And I use VI. Everybody uses VI, right? And it does exactly one thing, which is it leans the motorcycle in proportion to my head lean gated by my speed. So otherwise, our model, just attaching the bike to the model, that's what got me the rotation. But it wouldn't have leaned over like a bike does. And so that's all this code does, is it says, okay, when I have a little bit of speed, because I also don't want to lean over when I'm stopped, then lean the bike over, and it feels pretty natural. And that's the only custom code I wrote for that demo. So I went through that really quickly, but it's a simple product. And at this point, maybe I can take some questions if you guys have any for me. Yep.
I got here a little bit late. How does it connect to the computer? Is it USB?
Yep. Well, it's wireless. So there's a USB dongle right here. It's speaking Bluetooth to a headset. This just wakes up and turns off automatically when you start pedaling or you press a button.
So in that case, something that's Bluetooth, would it be able to work with something like Gear VR or some other wireless?
Well, the limitation right now, if you want to use like our controller in our games, is they rely on head tracking, head position tracking in particular. So it'll work and does work on Morpheus and Vive and Oculus and the new OS VR. We haven't wanted to put out games that could create discomfort. Obviously, you can design those kinds of games, but for us, the position tracking is used both for the comfort aspect and for the control aspect. The Bluetooth is likely also going to require the dongle in the initial run. But there's adapters, from that to, say, Android devices if you guys wanted to experiment. Anything else? Yep. Oh, yeah, this is fun. I wish I had a whiteboard. So when we're doing the lean, there's no lean sensors in the bike. It's just using the position. But, we're also encouraging you to look around and do all this stuff, right? And that also changes your position because the Oculus knows from the LEDs that are embedded in the face. So basically, I also know the direction you're looking. So one of the parameters in our VirZOOM model is the size of your head in meters. It presumes it's 10 centimeters from here to here. So when I turn, I'm just subtracting the sign of that from my position so that just the act of looking that way doesn't increase my lean. And we clamp it when you face backward is all. So you can look behind you. I could do that, and you can do that without steering to the wall. The one thing we've put in recently that you do have to pay a little attention to your head is the mirrors that we have in that race demo. They work like real mirrors. You can lean in and get a greater angle on them. But if you look to the right, to get another view, that can strafe you a little bit. So that's something we could tune, or we could actually make the mirrors adjustable for where you calibrated. We didn't go that far. Anybody else?
Were you guys using a train, like Unity's train for those, for the landscapes? And that was working pretty well for you in VR?
No, we did have some performance issues with the Canyon. So this here terrain is just a stock thing, and I wrote up the edges so that people can fly off, which I should demonstrate, by the way. The controller stops you from doing crazy things. But in that canyon scene that you saw, using the stock system produced more draw calls than we liked. And so Henrik, our graphics coder, just baked it all down into polygons at 2 different levels of detail, and we swapped between them. So that greatly decreased both popping and increased performance. But mostly what we're doing is we're really utilizing things that Unity brings to us. Our philosophy, and hopefully your guys, is to make use of the engine and not fight it. We wrote our own custom engine in Harmonix and used it for many years, and it's a lot of work to write an engine. So we're pretty pleased with everything that's in Unity and think they're doing a great job of supporting VR. Yep.
Could you go into a little bit more detail about what your vision is for how developers are going to develop for this?
Mm-hmm.
And primarily from a business model, how you see that happening?
Yeah, if you don't mind, because I ran through this all pretty quick. It's all pretty short demo and presentation. But the idea is we'll be selling the bike for under $200, and it has these features. We'll be creating games for it, sort of never-ending stream, because what we think people will do with the bike, is they need to be using it to justify putting this even in your living room, never mind the price, or near your TV. So we want to encourage basically usage every month, and we have many, many ideas, so we'll personally be making those games and available for a low monthly subscription. That subscription also opens up the SDK to you guys. You can make games that you want using our controller and or the raw data if you have your own VR solutions for free. And it also enables other people who are on the subscription to play those games. So, and that's the business model. We aren't intending to license the SDK or become like a publisher that takes a cut of any games you sell. You can sell games under this model. Hopefully what it does is it just adds value to that subscription. That subscription is less than we'd like it to be as a business, but hopefully it's enough to gain some traction and get you guys to use the bikes, because we really do think it's a fantastic way to explore VR. We've been testing all the demos like you have, and hope you agree. I need to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but if anybody hasn't tried this yet, we'd love to see you over at our booth. I'll just be picking the bike back up and dropping it there. Let me just end by showing you a little bit more of that bike, unless anybody has another question for me. No? All right. One of the parameters is of our thing is how it treats hills and slopes. So we know what your resistance is here. I can crank it up, make it really hard or easy for myself. But it's not controllable. The game can't say raise the resistance. That would have been a much more expensive product, which we didn't want to start with. So what we do is just simulate the effect of hills. You can see I can not climb as well. In fact, there's a limit to the amount I can climb, but I slow down when I go up hills and I speed up when I go down hills. And it does a pretty good job of tricking the brain into thinking there's a hill. And even though the resistance isn't changing, you can think of it as like what you would do on a bike. If you hit a hill, you gear down so that the effort you put in is the same as it was when you were riding flat. You just go slower. And when there's audio cues, it's much more clear, like the clip-clop of the horse, that you're slowing down when you go up a hill. And so people's reaction to that tends to be to speed up, to keep the pace the same. And so you do wind up getting more of a workout on the hills, and people wind up relaxing going down hills. And all of our games are keeping that kind of interval exercise in mind. I wasn't and still am not an exercise expert, but what you don't want to do is design a game that just encourages this forever. So that's why we put curves in the race game and things like that. What else was I going to say about the hills? Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, let me go land on the tops. Doo-doo. All right. Doop. So I didn't hit too many there, but I actually feel like a slight amount of bump between those two things because of the sphere collider I have on this bike. Oh, I stop. The collision response there doesn't yet have dampening, so we'll probably do something like this in VR to not just completely stop. But an important thing is that we never turn you in response to a collision. Once we get to documenting this thing, you'll see that I talk a lot about the virtual body. That's the thing your head's connected to. And as a general rule, you don't want to turn that virtual body unless it is being done in concert with the player moving their head so their inner ear feels right. So the reaction to a lot of physics systems to bouncing off of this would be to turn you. So we'll never do that. And that presented some challenges, in terms of how exactly to slow down. So I think we can achieve the same kind of thing we did with the landings with respect to trees. But I'm also interested in putting in a system that that I've used before, which is a local obstacle avoidance system. So if you're about to hit a tree, if you're making a game where you don't want to encourage that, I have a very good solution that just sort of slightly moves you out of the way before you'd hit it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can, you can imagine. I just stop when I hit the bus. Now, it could be that the games we design like that, if we ever designed a game with that kind of collision, you would want that other thing to move, and that feels pretty good. We've explored pushing, boulders around with the horse, and that's actually a viable VR mechanic, I think. So collisions aren't all necessarily bad. And the reason we just haven't fixed or put the smoothing on that one is it's actually generated the least amount of feedback, of all of our playtesting. So everybody else, good? Feel free to come by our booth anytime today. Thanks, guys.